and my Facebook is a little behind, so I guess it will catch up. Hey everybody, it's Dr. Tamu of Innovative Education and Training Solutions and Coaching by Tamu. I just did a live on Edu Innovative about, education vibes, all right? And now I'm on Coaching by Tamu, and I want to talk about the 3 P's to making it in business, people. So, as you know, I work with entrepreneurs, particularly in the Caribbean. Hey, Sassy V Clutches. Listen, Sassy V was just on my live on Innovative Education, right? On Tamu Petro Brown and Edu Innovative. And now, hey, she right on here for Coaching by Tamu. So do share. Let me share. So what I want to talk about is the 3 P's for making it in business, especially, let me tell you, I was going to say especially during these COVID times, and I pulled it back, but yeah, especially during these COVID times. And let me talk to you about why. So I'm sharing the live. Good. All right. Hey, CEO Da Vinci Designs. Thank you. All my old students are on here. Hey, everybody. Hi, Devashali. Hi, Abby. Hi. All right. So let me talk. Let's talk about how you are afraid. Let's talk about that now. Let's talk about how you are afraid to do things in this world because you feel that you don't have all the things that are required to do great things. Let's talk about how you are afraid of criticism. Let's talk about how you are afraid to make a bold step. Let's talk about how you are afraid to put out what you want to put out because you don't think it's just right and it's just perfect. Anybody on here had these fears? Tell me. Don't be shy. I have had these fears. So have you had these fears? Tell me how you are afraid to make that next big step. Tell me about how you are afraid to invest some money in order to grow. So Sassy V Coaching says, you're talking about me, CEO of listen, who's this? Tristal or Noel? Whichever. So that's Tristal. Hey. Tristal says he made the jump. He was afraid, but he made it. So let's talk about this fear. And these are 2 of the P's that's keeping you from doing what you need to do in business, from growing how you need to grow in business, from giving the world what you need to give them in business. And those 2 P's are perfection paralysis. We're doing 3 P's, but the first 2, perfection paralysis, right? So many entrepreneurs come to me and they want coaching, right? And they have the most outstanding ideas for business, but they haven't moved an inch. They come and they say, Dr. Tamu, I want to do this. And I'm saying, well, why are you not doing it? But I don't have this. I don't have that. I want to have this in place first. I want to open the store first. I want to have my bags. I want to have my logo. I want to have my website. I want to have this material to make my things. I want to have these things I don't have in order to make the first step. I want to make a perfect first step. So many entrepreneurs come into my coaching sessions and programs saying this one thing. And what they suffer from, I have dubbed it perfection paralysis. Now, let me tell you something. It doesn't make any sense to be paralyzed, and this is why. There is no point in waiting for perfection because perfection does not exist, especially in business. So Abby says, I wanted to do something, right, but I believe that being certified is critical before getting started. I hear that all the time, darling, all the time. Now remember that what you are giving in terms of value and knowledge, you're giving it to persons who are less knowledgeable than you. So if they are less knowledgeable than you, then they don't really care if you're certified or not. You can work on the certification as you go. I was doing business, having an online school, doing trainings and workshops well before I was any Dr. Tamu with any doctorate. What the doctorate has allowed me to do is position myself differently, and of course I have gained knowledge on the way, but I always had more knowledge than the people who I was training, who I was coaching, who I was consulting with. And so you have value with your gift now, and we are always on a learning trajectory. So there is never an end goal to learning, right? Abby, you remember them hustle days, Abby? Abigail, you remember them hustle days? Abigail says, yes, I remember that. Yep. So I was doing these things, and you can do these things too. Now, it's also really important to break away from this perfection paralysis, because let me tell you something. This is where the other P comes in. In business, you will always pivot. You're going to have to change things. So whatever you thought was perfect and worked well, let's talk about now. In January, it don't work now because we have COVID. Yeah? You see how that goes? Remember to like and share. I'm Dr. Tamu. It doesn't work now. And so you wasted all that time when you could have been putting your product out on the market, putting your service out on the market, helping people and learning along the way. There's a point in business that's called validation. Validation is the point between ideation, when you think of what you're going to do, and full-scale implementation. Validation is when you're testing the market. So, whatever it is that you have to give the world, you don't need to be perfect at it, because trust me, when you put it out into the marketplace, it's going to change. All the things that you thought about that you were going to do, you're going to change them, because that's the nature of business. Hi Delon over there on Facebook. Delon is one of my Level Up Ladies clients, right? Scaling. We're going to be scaling to $1 million, right? So you have to test. So does it make any sense to have perfection? Because you are not going to end with the same thing you started. It's not going to happen. Let me give you an example from my life. So when I started Innovative Education in 2012, doing online education, giving CXC classes and CAPE classes online 2012, before online was a thing, I had the best learning management system, the most savvy, online space. You ain't want nothing with me. And guess what? The people were signing up, but I couldn't keep them. Why? Because remember, everything in your mind is a theory before you put it on the market. That is my validation period. And I realized that the clients that I had, they were primarily women between 28 and let's say 35, 24, 35 and above. And they weren't tech savvy. And so, it was too overwhelming for them. And guess what I had to do? I had to pivot. So now I have email classes as well. Email classes as well, right? So perfection paralysis makes no sense because you will have to pivot, and you have to pivot all the time. A pivot does not just mean a big shift or a big change, like I'm rebranding, or I am no longer offering this service, I'm offering that service. Pivot can mean little things, little shifts, little changes. So Abigail absolutely says, lol, I'm tempted to say I'll do it right after my wedding next month. You've hit the nail on the head. Fear of launching out. Perfection paralysis. Man, Abigail, you're a bright girl. Keep it moving, man. You have to launch, because when you don't launch, you can't learn. You see how that goes? When you don't launch, you cannot learn, because business is a learning process. So the longer you take to launch, it's the longer you take to learn what your market needs, what your market demands, how they want to give you payment, all of these things, right? And so, you have to pivot. So pivoting is like a non-negotiable. You are going to have to change the things that you are doing. So the longer you stay to launch, the longer it takes to learn, the longer it takes to pivot. Meanwhile, people are out there to tell me if this ain't true. Don't you go online or buy product from people in your same field, or you're watching them or whatever. Hey Trent, my cousin. And yes, Delon says you learn as you go. Think about how many times you're watching your competitors or buy product from people in the field or engage in services, and you're saying like, this is what they're offering for this money, I could do so much better. But guess what? The customer has to go to them because you're not in the market. You home trying to be a perfectionist. You home trying to be a perfectionist, right? And so you're home sitting on your talent. You're home sitting on your ideas, and most of all, you're home sitting on the requirement for experimentation and validation. And I think that if a lot of entrepreneurs realize that you don't have to be a big business to engage in research and development, if you realize, if you understand, right, that once you put your product on the market or your service on the market initially, that phase is research and development, because you are learning after you've launched. You are learning, and you're going to change things. So you have to banish this perfection paralysis. And a lot of the work that I do in my programs is around mindset. Anybody who's ever coached with me or done a program with me, they know that I keep talking about the mogul mindset, because everything begins in the mind, okay? And so I could tell you, right, don't feel paralyzed. I could tell you, but what's your problem? Launch now so you could learn now. I could tell you all of these things. But your mindset is something that you have created over time. And so oftentimes you need to take little steps. So take a little step now. You don't have to take a huge step so that it overwhelms you, but you have to take a step. Now, Abigail says, I was about to ask, when is the next intake for persons who want to get into business? Send me a DM, Abigail, and I'll send you an intake form so that I can match you with the best, resources that I have, and see what suits you. So that will give me your background, what you want to do, your goals, your budget, and we go from there, right? So anybody with interest, send me a DM. All right. Now, I also know that a lot of you have perfection paralysis, especially in the Caribbean, in our small societies, because we are afraid of the criticism and what people say, and people feel like Send me a DM, Sassy, right, Veronica? And people, you feel like people watching you. Hi, my girlfriend, Nubian Queen. People are watching you and they're going to criticize what you're doing. Let me tell all you something, you hear? This is my rule of thumb. You should never consider the opinion of a person who has done nothing. Why are you considering the opinion of a person who has never walked a walk, never created a thing in their life, never tried a thing in their life? What you doing that for? That makes sense? It don't make any sense because they are out trying. So that's the first thing. Nobody's opinion should matter when these people are not great in their own sphere, in their own field. So their opinion means like literally nothing, number one. Number two, you have to be so focused on your goal that you don't even know about other people's negative opinions. To be honest, I don't know what people say about me or what I do, except the people that give me positive feedback and positive critique, right? And the reason is I'm not looking left, I'm not looking right, I'm looking this way. Because if you step into the side and you step in to the other side, that's like a drunken person. You don't have any, you're not on a path. You gotta be focused. You have to be focused. And if you're gonna be focused on a goal, so you're saying, I want to launch this, thing. I wanna have this huge business. The thing is, why you might have perfection paralysis is that with the resources that you have right now, you feel like it's impossible for me to do this thing that I have in my mind's eye with the 2 little cents in my bank account, because we've all been there. Me, been there. Especially COVID, been there. The thing is that every big thing started small. And so you just start small now. Start small. So let us say that you want to have a huge, because I have clients like this, you want to have a huge suburb development, with homes and grocery store and whatever. But you don't have the collateral for that, you can't figure it out. Start with 1 2-story building and a superette, a little food, a little convenience store. You have to start where you are. And so a lot of the times we have perfection paralysis because our dreams are so big, but our resources are small. And you're not realizing that sometimes you have to pivot. You see the next period again? You have to pivot to a smaller milestone in order to get to the bigger dream. Now, this is another problem that we face, is that we feel when we stop doing something or we've done something and it doesn't work, especially in Caribbean societies, we feel like that is such a failure and people are going to talk about us and people are going to say all of these things, but I addressed that part already. But what I want to address is your concept, or Caribbean people's concept of failure. And I say Caribbean people because in the rest of the world, when I am on these international workshops and you engage with people internationally and you read entrepreneurship work articles, they praise failure. They praise failure. When I spoke with the women in my doctoral study, these were 5 black women who had raised millions of dollars in venture capital funding. And I did a number of interviews with them to learn the strategies they use to raise big money and be successful as black women in tech. And the number of failures they had and the number of times they had to pivot is astounding, right? And in America and Europe, and so they pat entrepreneurs on the back. They're like, wow, they're really ambitious, they're really innovative, they're really creative. sometimes they call them a serial entrepreneur. And sometimes a serial entrepreneur doesn't mean you have had a string of successful businesses. It just means you've started businesses and maybe now on the fifth one, this is your success. So this idea that you're holding on, right, to something that doesn't serve you, and to an idea that's no longer, like, it served its time, or the fact that you wanted to do X but now you have to do Y, and that is giving you anxiety, so you stay married to the thing that doesn't serve you, the business that isn't growing, because you know you need to let it go and focus on that 20% that gives you the big money. You don't want to do that because you don't want for nobody to see you as a failure. You don't want to feel like a failure. There's no such thing. It just didn't work. Right? So like if your remote didn't work, you say the remote was a failure. It don't make no sense. It just didn't work out. Move on now. Move on. Alright? So, any questions for me while I, wrap it up, because I'm wrapping it up? And I just want to tell you that I have been there in perfection paralysis, overthinking everything. What if, what when, right? And I know many people suffer from that, okay? Next, you have to pivot and understand that pivoting is part of the process. And people who don't pivot, and pivot can mean change, pivot can mean stop and start, pivot can mean shelve and do something new, pivot can mean many things. The businesses that do not pivot are the businesses that fail. Everybody pivots. Even if you look at our society in St. Kitts and Nevis, people were pivoting and diversifying. I mean, TDC got out of OTI because it's not making them money. So they pivot, right? They move on. They bought it. It didn't work. They tried. They're like, all right, we got to put our resources elsewhere. So, Azariah Johari over on Facebook, hey, she says, failure and regret make you a prisoner though. Yeah. Sometimes it's not so easy to just move on to get over the hump in your mind. And so when I work with my entrepreneurs in sessions, so you can even book a clarity session if you want, right, to learn how to work on your mindset. But I do a lot of mindset work and setting expectations and feasible milestones that align with where you are in your mindset. And then as you begin to accomplish, Azariah, then you begin to get over the hump in your mind because now you have achievements, right? Delon says, very true, you learn as you go. You learn as you go. Sassy V Clutches says, that's me. I overthink everything. So many ideas for the business, but I'm so fearful. Well, you should be fearful of being broke now. Be fearful of being broke. The more things you try, the more you learn. The more you know what your customer wants. The more possibility for a sale. Just do it. Just do it. Try it now, because without trying anything, you don't have any data. You don't have any data to go on. And we think that data and R&D and stuff, these are terms for big business. No. All of us need data. The people in my scaling programs can tell you, like the Level Up ladies, I'm always asking, where's the data? What was your revenue? What did you learn, etc.? Because if you don't have data, we can't move forward. All right? Hey, Christelle. So Christelle is on. So Christelle, I'm wrapping up, girl. Where were you? And I was talking about the 3 P's. And I was talking about the fact that you need to get over perfection paralysis. And you have to get comfortable with the concept of the pivot when something no longer serves you. So these are really the 3 P's if you are going to make it in business. And I said also, the longer you take to launch, the longer you take to learn. Ah, Crystal says, girl, yeah, I just think them up. Love those 3 P's. Yes. So, no perfection paralysis and embrace the pivot. So, Crystal, you're going to have to watch me on the replay, girl. Thanks, everybody, for joining me. I'm going to try to come on more often because I don't think a lot of things, and then I'm like, oh, I should say this, I should write that, but I could just pop on the live. All right, so if you have any questions, Abigail and Veronica, I'll hit you up in the DMs with the intake form so you can tell me more about your goals and we can see how we can move forward. So bye everybody. It was Dr. Tamu of Coaching by Tamu. Bye.